The next topic is second language acquisition and the characteristics that are involved in the process, factors that are involved, and the processes that are involved in this second language acquisition. Learning a second language is a long and complex undertaking. It requires, among others, moving beyond the confines of one's first language and into new language, new culture, new way of thinking, feeling, and acting. So you can see that second language acquisition requires a learner to transform in terms of the understanding of complete new grammatical structure of another language. So it's not just the grammatical structure. In addition to that, it is a new way of thinking, feeling, acting, and also having the orientation of a new culture. So there are characteristics which contribute significantly in order to have successful second language acquisition, and among them are motivation, anxiety, learners' beliefs, cognitive processes, learning processes, and all that. Motivation is very important. We have seen that there have been numerous studies with regard to language learning which takes into account motivation as a key factor. Motivation, integrative and instrumental. Integrative is your own personal growth and cultural enrichment, whereas instrumental has the practical goals being involved. Anxiety, the level of anxiety, according to Christian, if you want the input to be comprehensible, then the level of anxiety must be reduced so that the learner is motivated and is less anxious to learn in terms of the hindrance that can be caused by the anxiety. Learners' beliefs with regard to the kind of interaction or the kind of instruction in the language learning context is concerned. What type of instruction they would like or they would prefer. So this takes us to learners' preferences. Then we have cognitive processes. We have discussed that, and we will again look at it in this specific context, that how language is processed cognitively. Then learning process of a learner, especially when he or she is engaged in the second language learning, the processes involved teacher and students interaction, the material that he or she is exposed to, and then the first language and second language overlapping or some kind of interference. Now all these factors come under this particular module. So let's discuss them in detail. We will start with motivation, which involves reason for learning. And again, when we're talking about reason of learning, this is actually connected to goals, practical goals, and therefore it's instrumental in nature. Now, it involves both reasons that learners have for learning a language as well as the intensity of the feeling. So when we're talking about intensity, it becomes integrative. For example, some learners only study the language because of language requirement, while others expect to use the language in their future career. In addition to having different reasons for language learning, people who hope to use the language for career purposes probably have a stronger motivation than those people who simply hope to pass a language requirement. Then we have anxiety, which includes uncomfortable feelings when learning or using the new language. Several studies have found that approximately 1/3 of American foreign language learners experience anxiety in response to language learning. Now that is what has been proposed by Horwitz. Most anxious language learners feel uncomfortable when speaking or listening to the new language, but some language learners also find writing or even reading to be anxiety provoking. Then we have learners' beliefs. Beliefs about language learning are important because they influence how students approach language learning and the language learning strategies that they choose. Many language learners, for example, think that they are too old to learn a foreign language well. So this is their belief. Social factors. A child's social environment directly affects his language development. Interaction with children is crucial in developing social and language skills. Parental involvement in language and literacy development translates to not only speak to the child but also in maintaining conversation where the child is present. A home environment centered around watching television, language, and verbal expressions reduces the need for talking. And when talking or conversations are decreased in home and the surroundings, language development may decrease as well. Cognitive language processes. The way each language learner processes words cognitively also affect how their own language develops. Developmental delays related to hearing disorder or overall intellectual processing can have a large impact on language development. Developmentalists claimed that children's ability to make association between things and that occur together and general learning mechanisms like analysis and categorizations, they all are the internal factors necessary for learning a language. They emphasize the importance of environment in which children are exposed to many thousands of opportunities to learn the words and phrases. Then we have L1 and L2 processes. We see that the first language helped in learning if the structures in the native language and in the target language were similar. So similarity in these two languages can actually help language learning. The significant difference between the two, which is L1 and L2 acquisition processes, is that the developmental stage of second language learners are not strictly separated. To conclude, learning a second language is influenced by motivation, anxiety, social factors, and cognitive processes.